On Vaticano this week, we follow Pope Benedict XVI as he encourages his peers to make prayer their mission. These experts are promoting metaphysics to combat the crises in today's society. At the general audience, the Holy Father calls for Christians to find solace in the faith in an increasingly secularized world. As the Year of Faith continues, a new English-language Mass in Rome proves popular. Meanwhile, plans for a one-of-a-kind conference on Ecclesia in America are unveiled. Also, the new ambassador from Australia follows his son to Rome, and the Pope enjoys a concert with his brother. All this coming up. Every year, Pope Benedict XVI leaves the Vatican several times to pay visits to institutions in the Diocese of Rome, of which he is bishop. On the morning of November the 12th, he reached out to the residents of this home for the elderly, run by the St. Egidio community. The occasion was the European Year of Active Aging and Solidarity Among Generations.
Dear elderly brothers and sisters, sometimes the days may seem long, empty, and difficult, with little activity or contact. But never be discouraged. You are valuable to society, even in suffering and sickness. And this phase of life is a gift that also allows us to deepen our relationship with God. The example of Blessed Pope John Paul II was and remains illuminating to all. Do not forget that among the valuable resources you have, there is the essential gift of prayer. Become intercessors to God, praying faithfully and constantly. Pray for the Church and also for me, for the needs of the world, for the poor, and that there may cease to be violence in the world. The prayer of the elderly can protect the world, helping it perhaps in a more incisive way than is achieved by the efforts of many. I would like today to entrust to your prayer the good of the Church and peace in the world. The Pope loves you and counts on all of you. Know that you are loved by God and bring to our society, often so individualistic and intent upon efficiency, a ray of God's love.
Soprattutto però, Padre Santo, si mangia bene.
The Pope's visit was a brief one. He was back at the Vatican in time for lunch. Most people's definition of metaphysics might be a bit hazy. These participants in the Metaphysics Conference 2012 want to clear that up.
Metaphysics involves the conception of the absolute, ultimate reality, whatever human beings consider to be the ultimate source or foundation of existence.
One of the most important things that I see is that persons who speak about metaphysics are interested in speaking about reality. They really want to explain or to underscore the need to have a real relationship with God. But it's not a choice, it's a discovery that every good thing that we want to do, every beautiful gesture that we have springs from our inner relationship with the Absolute, whom we call God, although there are others who don't accept that name. But the fact is that the reality of our being human means that we receive all the good things from the one who created us.
This encounter aimed to be a vehicle for exploring paths toward the renewal of metaphysics. Experts would like this conception of the infinite to be considered as the necessary foundation to provide all sciences with unity, direction, and meaning. Ignoring this subject, says this cardinal, would mean great harm.
I think that the study of metaphysics, most of all, is necessary in all the rational world. It is absolutely necessary to do science in the right way and use it correctly. We have to ask ourselves, what is the scope of science? What is science good for? These are the very difficult but necessary questions so that science might contribute to the good of humanity. We know well that great scientific and technical discoveries can be used for both good and evil. They have been abundantly used for evil, for wars that are always more terrible, for injustices, for terrorism and oppression. This doesn't end. Actually, science has given us stronger instruments to bring about evil in the world. We have to reflect deeply on the question of what is the sense of science and our research? What is the sense of man, and what is he about? We should be enthusiastic about discoveries, but we should remember the myth of Icarus, who soared up towards the sun, despite what his father Daedalus had said, so proud of his flight, he didn't realize that his wings were made of wax and everything fell apart. I think that this image that the Holy Father cited in a discourse he gave at the Lateran University is very significant to show the role of metaphysics and philosophy also in the field of science.
Through the rediscovery of this subject, organizers hope what they call a crisis of metaphysics will be reversed.
In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Pax vobis.
Pope Benedict XVI spoke to these thousands of pilgrims in St. Peter's Square about pursuing our desire for God in a secularized culture. He addressed the crowd in a variety of languages, including English.
Dear brothers and sisters, continue our catechesis for the year of faith. We now consider the mysterious desire for God which lies deep in the human heart. God has created us for himself, and in the words of St. Augustine, our hearts are restless until they find their rest in him. Even in today's secularized society, this desire for God continues to make itself felt, above all in the experience of love. In love which seeks the good of the other, we find ourselves giving ourselves away in a process involving the purification and healing of our hearts. So too in friendship, in the experience of beauty, and the thirst for truth and goodness, we sense that we are caught up in a process which points us beyond ourselves to a mystery in which we dimly perceive the promise of complete fulfillment. Thanks to this innate religious sense, we can open our hearts to the gift of faith, which draws us ever closer to God, the source of all good and the fulfillment of our deepest desire. During this year of faith, let us pray for our contemporaries who seek the truth with a sincere heart, that they may come to know the joy and freedom born of faith. Non dobbiamo però dimenticare
We should not forget that the dynamism of this desire always remains open to redemption, even when it takes the wrong paths, when it seeks artificial paradises and seems to lose its capacity to desire the true good. Even in the abyss of sin, man never loses that spark which enables him to recognize and savor what is truly good, and to start along the path of ascension on which God, with the gift of his grace, will not fail to give his aid. All of us, of course, need to walk the path of purification and healing of our desire. We are pilgrims to the celestial homeland, towards that full and eternal good, which nothing can take from us. This does not mean, then, smothering the desire that is in man's heart, but liberating it, so that it can reach its true height. When desire opens a window to God, this is a sign of the presence of faith in a person's heart, faith which is a grace of God.
The Holy Father concluded his general audience with an appeal for peace in Syria. He announced that he was sending an envoy, Cardinal Robert Sarah, to meet with Catholic charitable agencies in nearby Lebanon and coordinate their efforts to assist refugees.
As I make my prayer to God, I renew my invitation to the parties in conflict and to all those who have the good of Syria at heart, to spare no effort in the search for peace, and to pursue through dialogue the path to a just coexistence, in view of a suitable political solution of the conflict. We must do everything that is possible, because one day it may be too late.
Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
Just steps from St. Peter's Basilica is a smaller church that is seeing an increase in visitors. It's the Church of Santo Spirito in Syria, where a new English language Mass is becoming a major stop for pilgrims on Sunday mornings.
This is an initiative of the Council for the Year of Faith. Because there are so many English-speaking pilgrims that are coming here to Rome, we thought that this would be a wonderful opportunity in which to help the English-speaking pilgrims come to understand a little more about new evangelization, so that when they go home, the word evangelization is not something foreign to them, but would be something that they have an understanding of and hopefully will increase their desire to communicate the faith to others. So Archbishop Rino Fisichella is the president of the Pontifical Council, and this is the Council's initiative, along with collaboration from the United States Bishops' Conference Office for Pilgrims here in Rome. So we've been working very closely together with them.
Young Americans studying abroad in the Eternal City, as well as many pilgrims and religious sisters, pack the church weekly, and they're treated to a warm reception in a home parish away from home.
The Lord be with you. We welcome all of you to the celebration of the sacrifice of the Mass, and we welcome all of you from near and far that are on pilgrimage to the Eternal City of Rome.
Many Americans have come together to attend Mass at Santo Spirito. This student at the Pontifical Institute of Sacred Music is one of them. And the Mercy Sisters, who staff the U.S. Bishop's Conference Office for Pilgrims in Rome, have also taken the celebration on as their own.
Well, we try to let every single person that's coming to Rome know that there is a Mass that they can go to in English while they're here, so that if anyone was concerned about finding a Mass on Sunday, they'll know where one is, and then at the same time, if they were intimidated by the Italian language, they'll also have the opportunity to feel more at home in Rome.
We like to come to this 10 a.m. Mass at Santo Spiritu because we feel it's not only an important thing to do during the Year of Faith, but it's also a great opportunity to see a Mass in English so close to St. Peter's. There's not a great availability of English Masses throughout Rome, so this is a wonderful opportunity for us to do, and we've been coming here now for the past several weeks.
Though the Mass began on October 14th, it's almost as if it has always been here, and it's already begun to bear fruits.
It's interesting, we have a good number of college students that are studying here in Rome, so they've been coming. We also have a good number of religious that join us for Mass, and yet the majority are people who are pilgrims that are here for a week or two in Rome and have seen the sign out in front of Santo Spirito. And it's just a perfect church to have this initiative, because Santo Spirito in Syria has been welcoming pilgrims from Saxony since the 8th century. And so we're in continuity, we're continuing the tradition of welcoming pilgrims here and then inviting them to go to the Angelus right after the Mass. So it's been just a wonderful opportunity to listen to the stories of so many young and old from all over the world, and to recognize the fact that no matter where we come from as Catholics, we're always family. And that, as Archbishop Fisichella speaks about all the time, as Catholics, we're never really alone. And that we need to be reminded that we have to invite others into that community and into that friendship.
Thank you very much, Father. Thank you.
The Mass will continue to be celebrated every Sunday throughout the Year of Faith, which is to close in November of 2013. Pope Benedict XVI prayed the Angelus with the faithful in a rainy St. Peter's Square on Sunday, November the 11th. He pointed to the examples of the two widows in the day's liturgical readings, who, despite their great poverty, are models of faith and charity.
La scrittura dice,
The scriptures state that the objective condition of need, in this case the fact of being a widow, is not enough. God always asks us to adhere willingly to faith, which is expressed as love for Him and for one's neighbor. No one is so poor that they are unable to give something. And indeed, both these widows show their faith in an act of charity, one towards the prophet and the other in giving alms. They therefore demonstrate the indivisible unity of faith and charity, which is like that between love for God and love for neighbor.
He concluded with the words of St. Leo the Great, that no act of kindness is meaningless before God, and no mercy is fruitless.
benedicat vos omnipotens Deus, Pater et Filius et Spiritus Sanctus. Amen.
Our Lady of Guadalupe, patroness of the Americas, is set to return to the Vatican this December. A year after this Mass was celebrated in St. Peter's for her advocation, a 4-day conference on the Church in the Americas will be taking place.
La Comisión Pontificia para América Latina está muy empeñada.
The Pontifical Commission for Latin America is very busy with the organization of our coming International Congress. It is being organized with the Knights of Columbus and also in collaboration with the Institute of Guadalupan Studies. The theme of the conference is very broad. It is titled In the Footsteps of the Post-Synodal Apostolic Exhortation, Ecclesia in America, under the intercession of Our Lady of Guadalupe, Star of the New Evangelization and Mother of the Civilization of Love. On the 15th anniversary of the Synod for the Americas, we'd like to pick up, deepen, and relaunch the content of the Apostolic Exhortation and its results. We wanted to do so immediately after the Synod for the New Evangelization to apply it specifically to the Americas. Our Congress will be here in the Vatican from December the 9th to the 12th. At the same time, there are going to be some great events for the Year of Faith that the Holy Father inaugurated on October the 14th.
Blessed Pope John Paul II's document titled Ecclesia in America expresses his hope for a more united Catholic Church throughout the Americas. For this bishop from Mexico, the improved relationship between the United States and its neighbors to the south has already been beneficial.
Bueno, los latinoamericanos presentes en los Estados Unidos de América.
The Latin Americans living in the United States of America are a great wealth. The bishops see it that way. Their religiosity and public expressions of faith have begun to give a very favorable facet to the Church in the United States. They have even been defending the nation against the strong forces of secularism. I believe that the United States hasn't achieved the great levels of secularization like Europe, thanks in large part to the presence of Latin Americans.
Cordero de Dios, Hijo del Padre.
With this second initiative in as many years, it appears the Holy Father is making it a tradition to celebrate Our Lady of Guadalupe in the Vatican.
Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano.
With his nation about to celebrate 40 years of diplomatic ties with the Holy See, This new ambassador has just arrived at the Vatican from Australia. A practicing Catholic, he's just the second resident ambassador to represent the land down under to the Holy See. From his office with an eye shot of St. Peter's Dome, he plans to make the most of the experience.
I certainly will seek to reinforce what has been put to me by other ambassadors from my region, whom I've spoken to and met over the 6 weeks since we've arrived in Rome. This is a good time to be a representative of Australia, a representative from the Asian and Pacific region, because there is increasing focus by the Holy See and by others in terms of intercultural dialogue and interfaith exchange with the peoples of the subcontinent, the Indian subcontinent, and with Southeast Asia. That there should be a much greater emphasis in interfaith dialogue on the peoples of this region and of their faith and outlook and their prospects seems to me to be something that needs to be emphasised. And it would be one of the priorities, and has been one of the priorities in discussions that I've had since I've arrived in Rome.
Of the ambassador's 6 children, 5 were able to come to Rome with their spouses and a grandchild to be with him as he presented his credentials. One of them is a priest of the Archdiocese of Sydney, who studied and was ordained in Rome. He returned to be with his father to celebrate the occasion.
One ambassador said to me recently at a function that usually sons follow in the father's footsteps. This way, in our family it seems to be around the other way around. Having been here for 6 years, it seems like the father is walking a little bit in the son's footsteps by coming over, although I was here as a student and Dad is coming as the ambassador. The family is absolutely overjoyed that the government has appointed my father as the ambassador. Dad is a man of great faith. I'm one of 6 children in our family. We've had a very strong Catholic upbringing with daily prayer, rosary, Mass as being an essential part of the life in the family, and has been a great example for all the children in our family. And Dad has been very much involved in society as well, in legal and in political circles, and has really taken on the Church's teaching that part of the role of the laity is to really embrace the gospel, but to live that within the context of society, and to bring the message of Christ to the main street, to the square. And my dad's done that throughout his legal career and through his involvement in politics and so on. And I'm sure he'll bring great interest and great skills to his service here of our nation here at the Vatican.
It's not hard to see that they're elated to be in Rome together. The Pope returned to the Sistine Chapel for the second time in just 2 weeks, and this time he came with his brother. Monsignor Georg Ratzinger, a priest and a musician, joined Benedict XVI for a concert on November the 11th. It was offered privately as part of the 11th Annual International Sacred Music Festival. Among the pieces performed by the Sistine Chapel Choir were compositions from a Mass written by Monsignor Ratzinger himself, entitled The Holy Year. The brothers, of whom the Pope is the younger by 3 years, were visibly pleased with the concert.